Theodore Roosevelt once said, "The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena."
I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength, makes us noble.
So that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat.
Seize the day.
Whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood. Who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, and spends himself in a worthy cause.
And I'm gonna stay right here and fight for this lost cause.
You've got to get mad.
I mean plumb mad dog mean.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure.
Who at best, if he wins, knows the thrills of high achievement. And if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly.
I'm gonna show you how great I am.
Hi, once again, everybody. I'm Ed Berliner, and welcome into another edition of The Man in the Arena. For today, the fastest 30 minutes in sports and politics. For those of you watching us live on YouTube, Twitter, and also on Facebook, we thank you for joining us. The comment lines will be open if you'd like to go ahead and drop something in there. And, of course, for those of you who will be able to catch us a little bit later on, once the show is over, it will be posted on YouTube. You can then go to welcomeToTheArena.com. You can go to Ed Berliner Live, find it there. And also, don't forget, you can catch all of this on our audio podcasts on all of the major podcast platforms. Just go to EdBerliner.com, search out Man in the Arena audio podcasts under programs, and there's a link there for every one of the major podcasts where you can download and listen. Again, we thank you so much for joining us for an important discussion. These are the words that are being spoken and the words that are being textually thrown out in social media and in all forms of media within the last week or so. Tell those damn players to just shut up and play. How dare you get in the way of my games? I'll never, never watch another NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL game ever again in my life. I'm done. Of course, on the other side, there are those saying, bravo to the players in the leagues for standing up for social justice. And there are those saying that it's about time that the athletes did something. But they're being drowned out by the anger in this country right now, which says it's time for the athletes, the players, the jocks. They're just nothing more than a bunch of stupid men and women who need to shut up and play because sports is all that's important. That's the discourse that is roiling America right now at a time when, frankly, we need to come together more often than just fight. But what is it about sports? The sports in themselves that makes people say, if I can't have my sports, I'll never go back, because how dare you get involved in social justice or social programs. Let's dig into it right here on the fastest 30 minutes in sports and politics. Welcome in my friend who is an attorney, a former player agent, and frankly, I always do call him, because he's earned it, the smartest man in the room. It's a pleasure once again to welcome Joe Casal into the Man in the Arena. Joe, it is always a pleasure, my friend. It is an interesting time in what we do right now, and an interesting time in what we have to consider that is happening in America, because the anger that's here is frightening. But I would guess that you and I have spoken about this so many times over the years, it's really nothing new. It's the level that it's reached to, I think, is something that is very disconcerting.
Well, I don't know, Ed. I think that if you have any perspective, it was like that during the anti-war era. I think what amplifies it now is social media. I think people who are on social media see it as much, as a much greater amplification than it was. But back in the 70s and 60s with civil rights protests and anti-war protests, we had the same level of vitriol. I mean, we had
but not with sports. That's the point.
Sure, we had it in sports. The day that John Carlos and Tommy Smith raised their arms and had the Black Power fist, and that's 1968.
Sure.
These guys were thrown out of the country.
Sure, but at this level, I guess, is the point I'm getting to, Joe, is the fact that, and you pointed it out,
absolutely.
It's because of social media that has polluted everything to this point. But yes, you talk about that. There's also, even before that, the Boston Celtics were involved in incidents back in the early 60s as well. People got angry about it. But the anger right now about how dare you screw with my sports, it is fueled by social media, and it makes us wonder at this point, Why? Why are people so upset that you actually have individuals, men and women, who are concerned about what's happening in the country, and they're not just concerned about knocking in a puck or scoring a goal?
Well, that's probably the easiest question to answer, and that is that people don't see athletes as human beings. They see them as their form of entertainment, that they want them to dance when they want them to dance, play when you want to play, and they associate their reasoning to that by the size of their paychecks. And, just because you make a lot of money, it doesn't mean that you lose your constitutional rights to protest, or your right to have an opinion, or your right to do really anything under the auspices of the law. So, we live in a world today that if we seek dissent, there is always an outlet to find it. If we seek someone to validate our point of view, there is always an outlet to find it. And we are comfortable in our own space. We are comfortable on our couch. We are comfortable not having uncomfortable conversations. And it isn't just people of low information that are suffering from this. I mean, there are high information people. Look, professional sports owners, since the day Colin Kaepernick knelt, have tried to have it both ways. They have tried to be able to walk on both sides of the street, say, we support our players, yet contribute significant financial sums to elect this president, hold fundraisers in their homes to elect this president and and support this administration. What's happened now is you're no longer allowed to be on both sides of the street. You're going to have to take a stand. Players are saying, you know what? It's great you wrote a check to my foundation, but you, Mr. Owner, are contributing to the demise of this country and threatening my family and my people because of your support for this. So there's something more that has to be done. And that's where the rubber is meeting the road. All I've heard from some sectors is, why can't these people stick to sports? And then here we are at the Republican National Convention, and we see Lou Holtz and Dana White speaking, and these same people who want LeBron James to stick to sports didn't have a problem with Dana White and Lou Holtz speaking. And Dana White and Lou Holtz are perfectly entitled to have their opinions and speak. It's just that you can't select who you want to talk and who you don't. That's not how it works.
Okay.
And when people are approached to that, it's what makes them uncomfortable.
Let's get to that then, and another uncomfortable question, because the two men that you just pointed out are two white men, two powerful, wealthy white men, old white guys in Lou Holtz's case. Is it simply a matter then that we have to face that if an old white guy says it, or if a white guy says it, or if a white woman says it, that there's not going to be this much of a backlash, but it's because they are mostly black athletes who are the ones who are standing up and making the statement and making the stand, that is why people get upset? Because it seems, and again, I got nothing scientific to back this up in front of me right now, that most of the people that I read and hear who are so angry at how dare you deal with my sports are white men and white women.
Well, there's no question about it. I mean, I kind of chuckle at the thought of white America or middle America or conservative America embracing Dana White, because they don't know Dana White's background. Dana White had to leave Boston because Whitey Bulger put a hit out on him, because he didn't give Whitey Bulger the protection money for a business that Dana had in Boston, and he left to go to Vegas to get away from Whitey Bulger. And then Whitey Bulger ended up going underground for years, and that's the only reason why Dana White is even walking around today. So listen, it's the world. Racism didn't go away the day Barack Obama got elected president, and racism isn't going away now. It's as I've said often on this show, it's time to have uncomfortable conversations. We're having those conversations, and we're upset that people are uncomfortable. I mean, it's just, this is the way it's going to be. I think that the thing that has changed is the pandemic. because we are no longer busy in our jobs and busy in our lives and busy doing all other things that we usually do. We're not out and about. So we are watching all of this taking place in real time and reacting to it all in real time. And that's why I think you're seeing everything kind of get, all the chips getting pushed to the table now, because we are now having to face all this because we have nothing else to do. We're stuck in our houses.
That's
so
and therein
that's different.
Therein lies the biggest point that I hear and that I read from people, is that you as the players have interrupted my life. You have taken away what is comfortable for me. You have taken away the deflection that I always needed in my life, which was sports, and that's why you should just shut up and play, because that's what you're paid to do. And I point this out again because we've had these discussions. I would swear that if I was able to go back over the years that you and I have done shows together, I could probably count 100 times that we've said exactly this same thing, because it's always the money that the players make. And we see that again. You guys and you gals are making too much money. All the millions that you make, how dare you say anything? So why is there still that shut up and play mentality? Is it racism? Or is it the fact that we're jealous of the money that they make, jealous of their talent, or simply are just too damn carried up in sports that we've got no other life, and we become so immersed in sports that everything else, including family and social responsibility, goes right out the window because we're just too damn ignorant to see anything else?
Well, it's all of the above, but I think it's like anything else. People can say it all. It's not like NBA players are listening to these people. They're going to do what they're going to do. And the thing is, they're making headway. They're doing the things that, if you're going to be active, if you're going to be this kind of an activist, there has to be an end game. It isn't just enough to go Peter Finch and say, I'm mad as hell, I'm not going to take it anymore. Over the last couple of days, people have asked me, hey, what's the end game here? Well, I think you're seeing the end game. The Baltimore Ravens put out a statement yesterday. It's probably, until the NBA statement a little while ago, the most detailed statement we've seen of what the end game is. And the end game is that players are promoting more civic engagement. They want more people to vote. They want more people to get involved in their communities. They want more people to care. And the way to do that is to have more people vote. And I don't think it's I'll go back on one thing. When we talk about protesting, one of the things we've heard all along is we play the whataboutism game. And as I've written extensively about this, the concept of whataboutism is a 1960s Soviet KGB propaganda tactic. To justify their behavior, they play, well, what about X, Y, and Z? So people that engage in whataboutism, and there are a lot of people in this country to do it, a lot of them, quite frankly, and the media on both sides of the political aisle, are really contributing to propaganda. They're not contributing to an intelligent discourse on the issues at hand. So what's happened is you have players who are saying, you know what? We want more people to vote. Here's what we want from you, Mr. Owner. I don't want your $250,000 check to my foundation. I want you to open up your stadium and arena for voting. Now, that's about us. We talk about peaceful protests. All we've heard was, why can't these guys protest peacefully? Well, they did. They walked off to court. Can't get any more peaceful than that, and people got upset.
But is it not possible it will have the opposite effect? Well,
the end game is I want more people to vote.
Is it not possible that it will have the opposite effect, though, Joe? Because I get what you're saying. Get them into the arenas, get them to vote. But there are so many people right now that are so angry in a divided country that even if you try to bring them together, if somebody else who's not an athlete may try to do it, somebody who's a social activist, if you will, they'll look at that in a certain light. But again, it comes down to, if you're going to screw with my games and my athletics, I'm not going to follow this. I'm not going to go out and vote. Is it really going to have an effect, or is this going to have a snapback effect, as a lot of people have thought as well? It'll have a snapback effect on the Democratic Party when we get down to November 3rd.
I don't think it will have any snapback effect. I think you will have, look, any platform that allows more people to vote Look, you're going to have people that will go and vote for the simple reason of going inside a stadium and arena they've never been in and never will get in. I mean, it's like there is not. We have less than 40% of Americans that vote on election day. That's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. And if anybody is keeping people from voting, then they have an ulterior motive that's not good. So if anything, if we're opening up stadiums and arenas to vote, if we're opening them up to have drop boxes for people who don't want to wait in line and things of that nature, that is a simple step. It shouldn't even be a controversial step, but it's a simple step that we can all make immediately. You know, when you ask people, people ask, well, what do players want from owners? Well, that's one thing they want. If you're an owner of a professional sports franchise, they're not telling you who to vote for. They're saying open up your arena so more people can vote. How can an owner turn that down? It doesn't matter who these people vote for. It matters that we have more voices heard on election day, because right now, Ed, we have minority rule in this country. There are less than 40% of Americans who approve of this president and the administration. He was elected on a minority amount of votes. That's not the kind of representation we're looking for. So more people voting is one step towards civic engagement. And that is a positive step in the right direction. You're not going to solve all the problems in a soundbite, in 1 month, in 2 months. But we can take the steps to begin doing that. More people involved in the voting process is one step. Then we can start having the discussions about what we do about excessive use of force by law enforcement and all of the other discussions we have. But the first thing we have to do is get more people engaged in the process.
Well,
this is one way of doing it.
There's the next thing to consider. What exactly, and this is a question that a lot of people will ask, I think it's fair to ask here as well. The NBA players who cancel their games, the NHL players who put their games off for 2 days, the Major League Baseball players, the Mets and the Marlins who walk off after 40 seconds or so, what are they really accomplishing by not playing the games? Just because all it is a game, I mean, and certainly people are inconvenienced, but is it really going to make a difference in people's opinions and in their voting opinions as well? There are those who say it does absolutely nothing.
It's already made a difference. It was a front page story the last 3 days, and look at what's happened. Today, the NBA owners announced that they're going to open up their arenas for as election centers. I would venture a guess that you're going to see Major League Baseball and the NFL do the same. There's going to be a lot of pressure put on these owners. Think of it this way. If you're an owner of a professional sports team, I was on a webinar the other day, and the combined value of National Football League franchises are $99 billion. And you think of the owners, of the 32 owners in the National Football League, not just the team that they own, but all of their associated businesses. They probably, if you extrapolate that to baseball and football and basketball, you're probably looking at close to 1 million employees. What if all of the owners of these teams said, we're closing our businesses for Election Day. Election Day should be a national holiday. We're closing our businesses. We are opening our stadiums and arenas for voting. Let's just say they did that. Other companies are already following suit and doing that and giving their employees the day off for Election Day. Let's say that's all that's been accomplished in this. You don't think that's significant?
Well, it's significant, but is it really going to make a difference in the overall temperature in the country and getting people to actually get out and vote if an athlete stands up, wears a T-shirt, doesn't want to play a game, and says, I'm out of here for a couple of days and we'll shut everything down?
Well, but see, you're asking a question you won't know the answer to until Election Day. What if 15% more Americans vote on November 3rd? And you don't think this had an impact? Of course it did. So the idea is to draw attention to this and then to take the steps to do something about it. On that note, this has been a very successful 72 hours. Let's remember, people were put into the bubble in the NBA because they wanted to draw, not just to play games, but they wanted to draw attention to innocent African Americans unarmed African Americans being gunned down by police. That was the original intention. That's why Black Lives Matter. That's why it was on the court. That's why the NBA allowed the players to put different names on the back of their jerseys. So what the players did over the last 72 hours is reinforce to everybody, this is why we're in here. And now if things can come from this, such as opening up opportunities for more people to vote safely, having greater dialogue in our communities, that's exactly what this is about. You're not going to have something that turns out, we're not going to have an answer on Sunday at 3 o'clock because we have to have an answer immediately. It's going to be what's going to happen through the rest of the year. If we get more people to vote, all of this has been a success because you're going to have more people involved in the process. One of the problems we have in this country is a disenfranchisement from so many people who feel that no matter what they do, they have no say. And that is wrong. But the only way we're going to show that it's wrong is to give them opportunities and also to listen to what they have to say, even viewpoints we may disagree with.
So then let's get to the last thing here specifically that I'd kind of alluded to a little bit here at the beginning. Well, there's two things, actually. First of all, those who say, I'm never going to watch a sport again. That's it. I'm out of here. I'm going to turn you guys off. My TVs are going to be dark for the rest of my life. I'm never going to watch the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, Major League Baseball. I'm going to never, never, never be there again because you basically betrayed me. I'm not buying it, and I know you're not buying it either because these people simply, they can't give it up, or can they?
Well, if they did, it's their choice. We're a country of choices. What most people who do that, they just want attention. Give me attention. I'm going to type this out on social media. Talk about me. Make it about me. And look, I said the other day, you don't engage with people who want to make these strident viewpoints. You just screenshot what they've done, and 3 months from now, when they're arguing over whether it was a catch or not in the Chiefs-Texans game, you can say, I thought you weren't going to watch it anymore. And really, look, sports ed, while it is a large part of our lives, is a small segment of our society.
Well, not to some of these people. It's their entire life. I think that's what we're finding out right now is that it's way too important in their lives. I've always said, look, you and I, this is our business. We've spent our whole lives in sports. But to me, it's still, there's got to be something a little more important than a game. But we're being flooded right now with a good portion of the country who says, no. There's nothing more important than my games. You screw with my games, I'm out of here.
Well, I wouldn't say a good portion of the country. It's a small segment. Just because people are loud and post 70 times a day on social media doesn't mean they're moving public opinion. Look, Twitter's not the real world. And that comes as a shock to American media.
Thank you.
They believe that Twitter is the real world, but it really isn't. Okay, so just because a Russian bot, I posted this the other day on my Facebook page, a 60-person string of I've been an NBA fan and I'm a Democrat. I'm never going to watch a game again. And it was just a troll farm. So we create these identities and create these positions that aren't real. Look, if you are offended by players speaking out on social issues and you don't want to watch a game again, you have the right to do so. Nobody outside of your friend group of like-minded souls are going to care. It's your choice. Life will go on. This is going to come as a shock to people. But you know what's going to happen after this season, Ed? There's going to be next season. Whether you watch the games or don't watch the games, they're going to play. How many people did we hear say they will never watch an NFL game Again, because Colin Kaepernick knelt. Not watching it. We're done.
And the ratings are up, and the digital ratings are up, and there's more money in the contract than ever before.
Right. I mean, it's just, listen, people love attention. They love it. And social media gives you a megaphone to attention. But realistically, there is not enough of a block of people who feel that way that's going to move the market. And by moving the market, I mean having companies say, you know what, I'm not going to write that check of sponsorship to the NBA because you guys are just a little too militant for my taste. There isn't a single company that's going to do that. And so it just doesn't matter. I mean, and that's hard because people get on social media and they're typing away and they believe what they have to say is going to move a market, but it really doesn't. No. And so it is what it is. I mean, I think that we have significant problems in this country that we really need to work through. We're not going to work through them trying to make everybody happy. You're never going to make everyone happy. Not everyone's going to come out of the bubble being happy. Hey, here's a news flash. Not everybody in the NBA wanted to shut down the season, and not everybody in the NBA wanted to keep playing. This is what happens. The whole idea is to draw consensus that we all can live with. What's happened in politics is we've become so tribal that we can never agree with the other side on anything because it is a sign of weakness. That has really destroyed our political discourse. And we can't let that seep into other things, and what's happened in sports, the beauty of sports is you bring in people from all different backgrounds, all different races, all different areas of the country into a locker room. And the experience, for example, of LeBron James growing up in Akron, Ohio, is completely different than the experience of Kevin Love growing up with one of his family members being a member of the Beach Boys.
Yet, all different mentalities and all different peoples and all different experiences.
Yeah, you find a way to come together. Sports does that better than almost every other entity in our country. So in a weird way, it's great that sports is coming to the forefront of this because that's how you have a chance to draw consensus. It used to be the old argument, you get in a room and you battle and you find a way to agree to policy and then you walk out and you're unified. And that's really what's lost in this country right now because our political discourse is so disgraceful that we don't seek compromise, we seek to batter the other side. And that's why we're flailing. So when you see leagues coming together like this, I think it's phenomenal, and I think it's a template of what we can do going forward in our society.
It's exactly what we see. It is the beating up of people, and you see it all the time with the social media commandos because it's the semi-anonymous type of communication that there is. It's everything done in text instead of conversation like this. Need to get back one of these days to talk radio. I think it'd be a whole lot better because maybe we'd at least be able to have the conversations and the arguments in real time instead of bouncing back and forth all the time with text. Joe, unfortunately, we're all out of time. I want to remind everybody here in just a couple minutes, you're going to hear from John Carlos in an interview we'll talk about here in a moment. Always a pleasure, my friend. Let's see if we can keep things straight, and let's see if maybe we can bring a little sanity to this discussion as we go on. We'll catch you again next week, buddy.
Thanks, Ed.
All right, take care. Joe Casal, I call him the smartest man in the room for a reason. Don't forget, you can catch us on podcast. You can catch us by going to edberliner.com, look up the programs, and look for audio podcast. You'll find all the links there. And don't forget, you can find all of our shows on YouTube once they are posted at welcometothearena.com. We close this show with something very special. In 2014, there was an instance where members of the St. Louis Rams, of course, no longer St. Louis, the St. Louis Rams football team put their hands up on the field in a don't shoot mentality and in a protest. It was at that time that John Carlos, whom we alluded to earlier on, one of the two athletes who in 1968 raised their fists at the Mexico City Summer Olympics and was basically destroyed in their own lives, their professional lives, and their personal lives for that protest. John Carlos made some interesting observations about that protest at that time, which still to this day resonate 6 years later. We're going to leave that with you heading on out. Thanks for joining us, everybody. For Joe Casal, I'm Ed Berliner. We'll see you next time right here on The Man in the Arena, the fastest show in sports, politics, and actually really good conversation. Till next time, rock on, true believers. See ya.
All right.
It's relative to 68. No, backlash is because you did something that was necessary to do that the general public might not have been ready for. You know, when I sit back and look at the players from St. Louis and other players in the basketball field and so forth dealing with these issues, it reflects on John Carlos back 46 years ago, thinking to myself, boy, if they think John Carlos or Tommy Smith and Peter Norman were bad guys, just wait for the next 2 generations. And I believe that what you see in society today are just that. Those generations have come alive, and you see it running rampant across the United States and around the world now, where people are starting to say enough is enough. And that's basically what the Rams were saying. That's basically what the Clippers said relative to their former owner. The atrocities that have been taking place, they're not just merely thinking about themselves as much as they're thinking about their kids, their wives, their brothers, their mothers and fathers. The police department is trained to protect and serve, but yet and still within that protection and serving, they have these police come out to be very aggressive. Not all police. We have many good cops throughout this country, but we have some that's overzealous. Now, if they're training the police to come out and be aggressive when they're making these charges against these individuals, or who's training the general public in terms of how we're supposed to respond to police when they come to you in a very aggressive manner, when they come to you with more than one police? I remember when I was a young kid running up and down the streets of New York, we used to have beat cops. We know all the beat cops in the community. We have respect and admiration for them, and they show respect and admiration for the people in the city. So once we get back to those grounds, we might have some peace and understanding. But until that time, where they keep just having these grand juries and always turning up in a negative sense to defend these individuals that's doing these atrocities, the people are going to have unrest until the laws are changed. And I might add, there's always been the storm before the quiet.